heading into this album, the announcement of this album, Grady, when you heard this from Nas, and share with what you said to us off there about the expectations that sometimes come around Nas. I thought you made this really good point that I know Bryan rocks with, but what the expectations for this? What were your expectations for this album, King's Disease, new album from Nas?
Yeah, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't know of another artist who is, outside of a Drake, of course, for a variety of reasons, but that's criticized as much as Nas. Like, why did he have this production, or why did he go this particular route, or this feels a little bit more commercial? This ain't Nas. We want the old Nas. Or why did he? All these different things. Why is he working with this guy?
No, you're right, and that's why a lot of people see, and this is why a lot of people hate Nas fans, because a lot of people hate like the Nas diehards because they feel like Nas is always getting the short end of the stick, whereas we're not as hard on comparatively Jay-Z, Black Thought, whoever else we think is at that God level MC level, Eminem even, like they don't get the same criticisms that Nas does.
Why do you think? I mean? Why do you think that is, Grady? Why do you think that is?
I think one, because he started
with this. He started with this album.
That's the reason, though.
He started at a height that I don't think anybody else has started at.
I agree. I agree.
Reasonable Doubt took some time for people to go, oh, that was a classic. You know what I mean?
Drake didn't really have a classic right away, and a lot of people
classic,
still listen.
Yeah, 50 Cent's, first, once he got with Drake first on the scene and all that type of stuff, completely different vibe, big time commercial success, that type of thing. But Illmatic struck a nerve with people on so many different levels and connected with people on so many different levels in terms of where you were in your life, his being blown away by his lyricism, being blown away by his, intellect, the production value of it. I mean, it's a perfect first billing for a dude coming, right out the gate.
Yeah.
So this is the equivalent of being drafted into the league, averaging 35, 15, and 12.
Dex, what I say the other day?
He did say this.
Rookie of the year, MVP, leading your team to a championship and winning Finals MVP.
That's the same analogy.
The next year you average 28, 14, and 10. You know what I'm saying? And okay, you lost in the first round. And then you get heavy criticism because why didn't you average 35, 15, and 12 like you did and win a championship? It's just, I think that the height that he started at and the people who go to bat for him also, I think that plays a part into it too, that they have to defend it. Well, this Nas album one is great. Then it leads to a whole battle. Man, but look, I don't know. He's just been one of the more debated artists that I've seen, man, for real.
No, I think you're right. I'm telling you, Bryan made the same analogy, like literally the same analogy.
I said he got into the league, won Rookie of the Year, MVP, won a championship, and then people act like he hasn't been to the finals since. Where there have been other great albums in his catalog. Like you could argue that God's Son was the album of the year in 2002. It's between that and then it's like The Fix with Scarface, and then there's a couple other really good hip hop ones. But that's in that conversation. He has other album of the year contenders. But this one, where, let me tell you something. Because I heard, like, I was there, 12:01 a.m. I was on Spotify. I was like, I need to hear this, right? Because Nas, we talk about him a lot on the show, obviously. And my expectations for this album was a good album, but this surpassed my expectations. Because when I was looking at the track list, and you don't want to judge a book by its cover, you don't want to judge an album by its track list, but I'm looking at the track list, there were a couple things that were like, hopefully Blue Benz isn't literal. Hopefully that's metaphorical. This Fabio Foreign, feature, is this going to be a drill record with him and A$AP Ferg? You know what I mean? What was the other one? The Big Sean one. Like, I respect Big Sean. I like Big Sean to a point, but I'm not like the biggest Big Sean fan. I was like, this could sound good because they've had other collaborations that have worked. And then Don Toliver's in the song. What's he going to be doing? Lil Durk, how's that going to sound? He's probably going to auto-tune. Is that going to make sense on a Nas record? Everything on the album made sense. We were listening to this after it came out. Dexter called me. We were talking about this album till 2:30 in the morning. I probably listened to this album 7 times since, and I think as of right now, granted, there's not a lot of strong competition in this year's hip hop, race for album of the year. Freddie Gibbs, Alfredo, Run the Jewels, RTJ4. Some people putting Logic's album up there. Some people are putting Jay Electronica's Jay-Z mixtape up there. That was the best. This is the best thing I've heard this year to me. And in hearing it all, I don't kind of like the Lost Tapes 1. I don't have a skip on here, so that tells you how good it probably is comparatively. It's tight. I don't feel like there's a wasted second. It's only 38 minutes, and it's 13 songs. And I think that what this did, and Hit-Boy, who executive produced the project, along with the dude named Gabriel Zardes, who I saw on the credits, they basically got rid of the Nas picks bad beat thing as far as this album is concerned. Yeah. There was a bad beat on there. You hear the beginning of 10 points and you get a little nervous. You're like, all right. But then the beat settles in and Nas goes crazy. So, yeah.
How do you feel? I mean, how do you feel, Mike? Because I thought I listened. Bryan, okay, let me explain this so you understand this too. Bryan was a little ahead of me on his listening, and he's texting me, and he's like,
I'm not gonna say.
He's like, I'm not gonna say anything. This is good. I'm listening, and I'm like, man, I really like this production. Man, I really like this production. Like Nas is spitting. Like these features work. When I finished it, I was like, man, this is really good. I don't like to rush and say things are classic. I'm very guarded on that. I do think this is really good, though. What were your thoughts on it? How many times you listen to it? You listened to it a couple times at least?
About 4 times.
Okay.
Solid. About 4 times, and I haven't done my thing though. My thing with an album is I like to go for a run. I'm in New York. I don't drive anything, so I go for a run and kind of listen to it. So I've been listening, and then I might stop and go back to it or whatever. So I need my routine rhythm session, listening session, which is going for a run and listening to it. So my thing with this one, I think the cohesiveness with Hit-Boy being a part of the project certainly helps. And one of the things that as far as noticing with Nas, and I've been there since the beginning, is I think he's at his best when it feels effortless.
Yes.
And there are relaxed Nas records, and then there are Nas records where you get a sense where there's an extra effort there, and it's like it don't feel relaxed. Like there's something real cool, chill, and just dope when he's in a relaxed space. I ain't got nothing to prove. I'm about to, whatever it is. Yeah. And so that's when I feel like he's at his best and comfortable in his own skin, whatever that may be. And we get it. We were just talking about Paul George a moment ago. People criticize you may feel a certain type of way. You may press, whatever it may be. Same thing happens with guys in the booth, even the greats. Yeah. So that's when I feel like he's at his best, and I feel like this feels like a, relaxed record. Even Stillmatic, when there was a lot of pressure on Stillmatic when he was going through the beef with Jay-Z, there was still a relaxed vibe to it at the same time. He's in the heat of a battle with one of the, arguably the best in the game, and Jay's got the 5 mic album, and then Nas okay. It didn't feel like there was anxiety with with the whole thing and with the project. So you mentioned Godson. I felt like Godson was that way. I really liked Life is Good. There was some. So I felt like this was one of those efforts because the Kanye thing. I think there were a lot of high expectations or whatnot. And they had a collab before. Was that on Godson?
It was on Hip Hop Is Dead. They had Still Dreaming and Let There Be Light. Kanye produced those. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the hell out of that record, right?
Yeah.
And so you hear, they're gonna be working together, and it's okay, because that was and again, you listen to Nas's voice on that, Still Dreaming.
Smooth.
Yeah. Just
flowing. Yeah.
Flow. and it just worked magically. And I didn't get that same vibe with the Kanye.
Agreed.
Lab effort.
My expectations weren't high for that because I know the space Kanye's in, right? I'm just like, yo, I don't care if it's with Nas, whoever, but another thing I was thinking about, and Dex, we haven't talked about this, but another thing I was thinking about while I was listening to this was that we've never seen this before. And what I mean by that is, like, the Rolling Stones and John, like, they have all the legacy acts in, like, rock, for example, U2, et cetera, and in hip hop, this is still kind of new. Hip hop started 1979, so you're talking about 41 years ago, or 51 years ago.
Yep.
What's the math? 41 years ago.
41
right?
years.
41 years ago. We're not, graduated, bachelor's, not in math. What's it called? So 41 years ago, and then Illmatic comes out 15 years later, and then Nas is still in shape, basically. He's still, when he decides to put out a record and focus on the record, he still proves that he's one of the best doing it, like, actively right now. And we've never seen it over that stretch because, like, Big Daddy Kane faded, Rakim faded, KRS-One at some point, though he had a longer run than those guys, faded. A lot of guys faded. It's just Nas, and then there's, like, Jay, who hasn't been quite as long because although Hawaiian Sophie was in the 80s, like, Reasonable Doubt wasn't until 1996. So this is still new, and we've literally never seen this in hip-hop before.